Sir, Pampura sir has joined.
Yes.
Sir, Namaskar, Deshpande sir. Namaskar, Deshpande sir.
Thanks, sir.
Namaskar, Pampura sir. Good morning.
Sir, good
Yes, sir.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Jiskar madam, good morning.
Very good morning, sir.
Very good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Swati ji.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Pampura.
Pampatwa sir, very good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Good morning.
थोड़ा वेबिनार में हूँ, फोन करता हूँ बाद में.
हाँ.
Thanks, sir.
Yes.
We can go ahead, I suppose.
Yes, sir. Please open.
Yes, start.
Good morning, all the dignitaries and all the delegates present here. I am delighted to welcome you all on the FDP, Effective Curriculum Design and Delivery in Outcome-Based Education. As a teacher, we all are committed to upgrade ourselves for effective teaching. And I'm thank you all the teachers for being here. Thank you very much for your overwhelming response to this FDP. I'm happy to share that we have received more than 1,000 registrations from various universities. I hope that you will have stimulating sessions throughout this FDP. I welcome once again. Now I request our Director Technical, Shri Pramod Pampatwar sir, for his presidential speech. Pampatwar sir, please.
Good morning to all of you. I have learned that the registrations are more than 1,000 from 100 universities and across the globe. It's a very great thing that a small department in our college has achieved such a big amount of response from this webinar. This faculty development program in this COVID lockdown is an important thing, and during this pandemic, if you have arranged this program and got such great response with the dignitaries like our ex-Vice Chancellor, Dr. Deshpande, Sujit Maitre, and many more dignitaries attending, addressing this webinar. you all the best for the future.
I request Dr. Surekha Jajkar to please introduce our today's speaker.
Thank you so much, Dr. Swati Rate, madam. And I once again, we welcome you to this seminar, sir. It's a pride and pleasure to introduce Vinayak Deshpande, sir, who's going to address today's session pertaining to the subject, online education challenges, opportunities in the context of COVID-19. Dr. Deshpande is a towering personality in the field of economics and management. With the post-graduation in commerce and economics and MPhil degree, he holds a doctoral degree in economics. He has done MBA and is holding a key position of director of DBM RTM Nagpur University since last 8 years. He is also the assistant director of Academic Staff College. With his deep and vast knowledge and expertise in academic administration domain, Sir has also held many coveted positions at the exalted level in RTMNU. He was member of Senate, member of Management Council, member of Academic Council, member of Board of Exams, and chairman of Board of Studies, RTM Nagpur University. The higher positions he occupied are Dean, Faculty of Commerce, Registrar of RTM Nagpur University, Pro Vice Chancellor, and a high-ranking post of Acting Vice Chancellor of RTM Nagpur University. Sir has to his credit 65 research papers, 14 edited books, 17 published books, and 10 funded research projects, and the list goes on. He has chaired and is still chairing many professional, academic, and social committees in the university fora in and around Nagpur. So we welcome you, sir, to the JIT's FDP program.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. Should we start?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
please.
sir, please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Surekha Jajkar, madam, for your generous introduction. Thank you so much. My friend Pramod Pampatwar, sir, Dr. Mahesh Chopre, Dr. Swati Rahate, Dr. Adi Jiwani, all the participants from various corners of the country. I feel really delighted, and it's a pleasure and great honor to meet you all, though we are meeting virtually. But still, I feel Julilal Institute of Technology has given us wonderful opportunity to interact with our colleagues. And the topic which they have chosen for this webinar, it's very appropriate, and I would say that it is timely, because we all are now in that particular phase where we are trying to convey our ideas, lectures through online education system. And I hope all of you are safe in this challenging time and following the guidelines issued by our local authorities from time to time. The topic which is assigned to me, that is online education, challenges and opportunities, especially in the context of COVID-19. I think we all are from higher education system, and higher education is very close to our heart. And therefore, whenever we get an opportunity to express some ideas about higher education, be online learning or even the overall scenario of higher education, we always feel delighted, happy to share some of the views with our colleagues. And a lot of changes are taking place in this higher education system. Certain changes we are witnessing for the first time, and therefore the kind of solutions and policy measures which we used to adopt earlier may not be relevant in the current situation. And therefore we have to relook our own education system, and we have to find out what are the challenges and what could be the opportunities out of this particular crisis. And therefore, what I am going to do, I'll try to find out how we are actually getting accustomed with this online education system. And there are many institutes, those who have already started online lectures, online webinars, seminars, conferences. And really it is a thrill to have this kind of system. And that's why everybody is excited and trying to learn something new out of this particular system. I have prepared some slides just to show you certain glimpses of the higher education and the changes which are likely to take place in the higher education system. So let us try to understand that what problems we are facing and how we are trying to handle this crisis, in what manner our teachers, students, parents, corporate sector, how they are responding to this particular change. So online education, when we talk about, we normally consider that there are some organization of the classes over Zoom. But let me tell you that organizing classes over Zoom alone does not constitute online learning. There are something else. And therefore, Julilal Institute took an initiative to make people understand that when we talk about online education, can it be the substitute for our traditional education system? And probably everybody would realize that this can be the complementary to our traditional education system, but of course it cannot replace probably our chalks and duster, even if there is online education. But the situation is such that probably, at least for a certain period of time, we may have to rely on this particular technology. So what I'm trying to tell you, that we record lectures, we put those lectures on website. All these things, they are part of the whole process of modern technology, but everything does not constitute online learning as such. And therefore, as a teacher, as a learner, what is important is preparedness. And are we really prepared for that kind of teaching and for that kind of learning? What we have normally done so far, we try to see the reaction of the students. And after putting certain years in the teaching line, unless we get that reactions, probably we may not be able to understand that whatever we are telling, whether students are listening to it carefully and whether they are understanding it or not. And therefore, we have to devise some method with the help of which we would be able to deliver the lecture without having any kind of face-to-face learning. We grew up in face-to-face learning, and that was the predominant format so far. And therefore, I feel that with this kind of change, it is going to be the challenge. So what are the expected changes which can take place in the education system, and how far really we are prepared to face the challenges and the changes which are taking place in the higher education? As we all know, there is rise of online education, and changes in what kind of education would be offered in the next decade. So same kind of pattern of syllabus or same subjects, they may not be relevant, and therefore a lot of changes will have to be brought in the system of floating some new ideas. Universities will also have to be flexible in order to accommodate those new changes, and therefore there is a possibility that certain disciplines, they would be demanded, and certain disciplines which were earlier there, their demand will going to decline, and that is, I think, is the biggest challenge. So those changes we have to envisage, we have to find out how to accommodate them, and therefore some other disciplines, they are going to increase, And therefore, I feel that it is the most important thing for the universities to be flexible. As we all know how much time it takes to revise our syllabus. And therefore, probably board of studies, faculty, academic council, they will have to take those decisions very fast. And therefore, I feel that adaptability and the way they deployed resources, I think that needs to be changed in the changing circumstances. In traditional and online education, we have to first make ourselves convinced that whatever we were under the earlier education system, so we have to avoid seeing online teaching only through face-to-face lens, because that is the kind of system we followed over a period of time. And therefore, first thing which needs to be done is how to avoid seeing online teaching only through face-to-face lens. Probably we won't be able to replicate rich experience of that face-to-face learning. And even now, those who are experienced and people, those who are in this field since last so many years, they still feel that that was the time, that was the period which was far better and that was good because we were having face-to-face interaction. But that kind of thinking and that kind of mindset, that first needs to be changed. If we still operate in that mindset, then probably this kind of education system may not be popularized the way we want. And therefore, online medium is altogether different. And therefore, every individual teacher, institute, they have to evolve some strategies, techniques for effectively designing online learning. Designing online learning is not a simple task, and therefore we all have to ponder on this particular issue and to find out how you can have creativity in this online learning. The most important challenge and the problem which I feel is the internet access. And that internet access is the prerequisite, I would say, for online education. If you see NSS 75th round data, that clearly shows that how many households are having internet in India. So data shows that 42% in urban areas, they are having internet and 15% in rural areas are having internet. This fact cannot be denied when we go for online education. And therefore, not only the institutes, but some supporting kind of agencies would be required. It could be government, it could be private corporate sector, where they would see to it that how to have the internet in larger number of households. Households with computers, rural area only 4% and urban area 23%. Of course, we may say that we have smartphones and all that, but that may not be adequate enough to equip ourselves for the online learning, and therefore we may have to search some other option, either laptop or computers. Even at the world level, UNESCO has provided the data that world average for internet penetration is 43%. And world average, those who are owning devices throughout the world, it is about 50%. And therefore, India is not the only country which is lagging behind in terms of internet and computers, but overall at the world level also, the situation is not that encouraging. That also we have to understand. And therefore, as I said, there is a need to shift mindset towards online teaching and learning. And that is how we have to accept this as new norm. This is going to be the new norm after COVID-19, and this situation would be continued for a certain period of time. So how you can make the online system effective? The first and the foremost thing which Julelal Institute took initiative, that is robust training for faculty and students on this educational technique and tools which we are developing now. And therefore, when we are going for this online education, the kind of accreditation process and the norms for validation, that also will have to be revised, and UGC is looking that kind of area, how to make changes in your APS score and what norms now needs to be introduced. So we have to revisit those norms of validation and accreditation of online courses. Pandemic in fact showed the potential of having good quality ODL, how distance learning, open distance learning program you can make effective, and online programs of various disciplines. So I feel the most challenging task for institutes like us will be the competition now with not only our traditional universities and institutes, but probably the kind of open universities which are functioning and they're already in that system, and therefore probably they would be able to do better than what we are doing. And therefore I feel that there will be new competitors now with this kind of online, and therefore how their way of teaching in terms of ODL system is different from ours, that needs to be seen. And therefore that kind of creativity probably would be required. As I said, that online cannot be everything in the higher education system. So you have to empower learners, not only with online links, but with print material also. And therefore the traditional instruments like radio, television sets, that also will have to be there along with the online education. And therefore I said in the beginning that attending meetings and delivering lectures on Zoom may not be the only way of online teaching and learning, but probably these traditional systems and traditional medias also will have to be continued, especially in the areas where there is no access for the internet. And that is how that becomes the complete package. What is the future of our university? What I feel, that let us not cater to only English speaking elite class of society, and that is going to be the biggest challenge. Like in traditional system, what we are doing and what we used to do, that we used to deliver our lectures in English, and many students, those who are not well accustomed with the English language, we used to convert for them immediately in Marathi also. That is going to be the problem in this kind of online making material. And therefore, if online learning has to happen, it has to happen for the masses. That needs to be clarified in the mind. We are not catering to the specific section of the society, but we are catering to the larger society. And therefore, how this online learning we can spread over for the masses, that is going to be the biggest task and the biggest challenge. And probably we have to develop e-content in regional language, because 80% of Indian students, they won't be able to cope up the English language, and they are well versed with vernacular medium, and therefore some new technique will have to be evolved. As yesterday only, IGNU has announced that those who are interested in translating in vernacular language, they can come forward. We will assign tasks to them. So they have already done, and they are already in that preparation. So our universities and our institutes probably will have to prepare themselves that how to translate this online material in the local language. And therefore, future of our university perhaps would be a blended model system. You cannot just rely on online. There has to be the combination of so many aspects. There can be the combination, and you can have the link with the television channels, and some channels, they can be developed the online education system, and all the time we need not rely on this kind of technology. And therefore, how to have the blending for the higher education system, that also we have to think about. Mind well, technology does not teach. Technology does not teach, teachers teach. And therefore, we are just using technology as a medium. It cannot be the end. And therefore, teachers, they have to consider that whatever the technology we are adopting, this is going to be our medium with the help of which we are going to communicate to the students. and whole technology cannot tell everything to the students. So it is not just about teaching that needs to be understood. It is about creating the person. And because there is also social element involved in that, I consider this as the biggest challenge, that we have to create the person, and creating person is not just communicating by the teachers with the help of online system, but there has to be some kind of social element involved in that. And therefore, even though we say that working from home and all these things are becoming popular, peer learning is one of the most important aspect of the whole education system, and that probably we are lacking at the moment. And therefore, the challenge would be how to involve the social element in the whole process. So online entirely won't help to create person. And our objective is to create good person in the society, which is having some social element also. And therefore we need innovation in teaching and innovation in learning. So how to get involved students in the whole process? What kind of exercises we can give? What kind of models we can adopt, so that students will also be involved in the process, and there will be some kind of social element that I think should be the priority in the whole learning and teaching process. And one of the most important aspect is last mile connectivity. If there is no last mile connectivity, I feel that there is going to be the new divide, and that is what is going to be the digital divide. And that digital divide means those who are having those devices, they would go ahead, and those who are not, they would be lagging behind, and we will create a society where it will be a digital divide society. And that digital divide society can create and accentuate further inequalities in the system, and that would be worse than the kind of inequalities we are facing now. And therefore, I feel that we should use this opportunity to improve education base with decreased cost, because if you expand it at the largest possible level, as in economics, we talk about economies of scale and reducing costs, that would be possible if you develop that kind of opportunities, with the help of which we may get success in reducing the cost of education also. So what is the new approach in higher education? Number of universities, they are more than 950. Colleges are more than 50,000. Almost 4 crores, 3.5 crores to be very specific. There are 3.5 crores students, and around 85 to 90 lakhs, they come out of colleges. So if you see private universities and private colleges, they are actually sharing the burden of about 60% to 65% now. So many private universities and so many private colleges. And therefore, the biggest challenge will be how to cover the cost by these private universities and private colleges. And situation may come that people may start demanding the public education system again, because they may feel that public universities would be able to cater to their needs with lower level of price and with lower cost. And therefore, that blended approach again would be required in this particular system also, along with physical interaction and online. That of course requires stable power supply and high-speed internet. If there is no high-speed internet, again there would be the problem. And therefore, whatever the resources we have, how we can utilize in the best possible manner up to the fullest possible extent, that also is going to be the challenge. What is the scenario of education after COVID? We have to remember one thing, and everyone has to appreciate that universities, they are precious national assets. And therefore, this is the sector which is suffering the most. I would go further and say that there is package announced for small and medium enterprises, MSME, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Probably some package would be necessary for the education system also. The kind of problem we are facing, and therefore there is a unique shock to this sector, and this shock is so powerful that it would be difficult to go back to the normal level immediately, and therefore something additional things need to be done in this system also. So you have online learning where our consumers are students, they are learners also, and the many people, those who are involved, not only teachers and students, but parents also. Home environment, that is the most important aspect of online education system. So that kind of culture and that kind of teaching will be required not only for the students to learn, but even family members, they will also have to learn that online classes are going on. So what kind of environment should be provided at home, that also needs to be considered. Otherwise, there could be some kind of problem. And therefore, that issue of access, appropriate device, as I said, laptop and access to Wi-Fi, that would be the another important issues which need to be considered. And therefore, I feel that government needs to be an enabler. Where there are no facilities, probably government will have to take initiative as they have already taken. And therefore, in rural areas, 15% access needs to be expanded. And that is how they will have to be more evangelists for online education to flourish. So unless they are enthusiastic about it, probably we may not be able to go ahead. And that is what government is trying to do. What I feel that this is the most vulnerable sector of the economy. Why is it so? Because this event occurs once in the lifetime and once in century. We never faced such kind of situation earlier. And something we never faced earlier, it becomes difficult to evolve immediate solution. Normally, we have solutions for the things which are already there, the crisis which is already occurred, and then we try to fit those solutions in the present crisis. But this crisis is altogether different, and therefore the sectors of the economy that are most vulnerable are going to be disrupted the most. And therefore, those have not had much disruption for the last 50 or 100 years. They are healthcare and higher education. And therefore, the kind of problems which we find in the current situation, especially for the healthcare and higher education, they are more serious because we never experienced such kind of situation. We experienced strikes of the students. We experienced lockout in certain cases, but we never experienced such kind of disruption. And therefore, that is the biggest challenge. So creative content will create learning experience, and therefore technical kind of things needs to be supported with very effective mechanism of teaching. And unless we have that kind of mechanism, delivery may not be that sharper. And therefore, the most important challenge will be how to make our delivery more sharper. And technology which we are using, it could augment lectures and increase peer-to-peer learning. Students may have some kind of interaction with other students during the process, and therefore override manual grading also. That will be improved if we have this kind of system. Only thing is that this learning experience probably would require another additional kind of training for the counselors to assist each student individually, because we do not know that when you are delivering online lectures, how many students are really attending, listening. They may have mute their voices and the visual, and we may not be able to find out that whether they are listening to us or not. And therefore, for that, another system probably will have to develop where we have to monitor that how far students are really learning and understanding us with the help of this online education system. And therefore, there are certain online challenges. What will happen if we go online? And suppose we imagine that now for the coming period of time, at least for another 3-4 months, I would say, we may not be able to meet and we may not be able to deliver lectures the way we were doing earlier. And therefore, where we don't have students on campus or fewer students on campus, how that campus would look like. That I think is another important challenge for the teachers like us. And this is the challenge. So it's an awful time in the world, but at the same time, I would say it is interesting time in education because something new is going to happen. And we have never had a moment like this where everyone at the same time had jumped into this technology. And every country in the world you find is talking about online education system. So many webinars. I was surprised that Armory College, they organize international seminar, and you will be surprised to know resource persons were from number of countries, and they participated so enthusiastically. So I consider that that is the biggest advantage, where you can catch hold of these experts. Otherwise it would be difficult for them to come and deliver lecture in India, but that is the kind of system we are developing. But we have to remember that faculty members is our critical capital, and that I think we have to ascertain, we have to appreciate now in the changing situation, because they are the persons who would carry forward this online education system, and the ones that will do best are the ones who are ahead and are developing systems that are most relevant and adaptable. So I consider that this is the most important capital in the university, and it is expertise that faculty have. So we can consider this as soft capital, which does not show on your accounting statement. And therefore, this is the most critical capital, and that is the kind of appreciation which will be required now, because ultimately you have to carry forward the system with the help of them. And therefore, coronavirus is changing life as we know it on daily basis. Every day we are facing some new kind of challenge. So this is use of digital technology and how the pandemic is rewriting our future, that needs to be seen. So ability to teach through the technology is really, really powerful. But it all depends on how enthusiastic the person is who is delivering the kind of lectures. And therefore, things that had been hard in the past, bringing guest speakers, ability to tie those together, that I think is going to be the new norm. And can remote learning bridge the socio-economic divide? That also needs to be seen. There is a possibility that this is the device which would help to have the kind of bridge between the different sections of the society, and that socio-economic divide you can minimize with the help of this kind of technology. So shrinking the digital divide depends, of course, on the financial resources. This will require a lot of resources, and it all depends on how our corporate sector, how government, how private institutes, how public universities, they would be responding to this mechanism. And if they do it, then only we will be able to shrink these distances. Otherwise, these distances are going to rise. And as I said, out of digital technology, there is a possibility of digital divide. Role of learners, very, very important. So we should not look it from the point of view of technology alone. Students, learner, parents, they are now aware that this is doable. We can do with this, and classes can be conducted in this manner. That kind of confidence needs to be created, not only amongst the students, but amongst the parents also. You can see how parents are worried in this particular situation. What will happen to students, whether they would be getting jobs, whether they would be getting degrees. These are the issues, and for that we have to create confidence with the help of this online teaching. Corporate India also needs to understand that whatever is going on now, that students would be able to learn with this kind of technology. That also uh, awareness needs to be developed amongst the corporate sectors. Students also, they were having face-to-face education earlier, and now they have to participate in the classes on an online platform, and therefore that is also going to be the new norm for them. So Atmanirbhar Bharat, when we talk about, this is going to be the real Atmanirbharta for students also. Because all the time when we talk about higher education system, we feel that there should not be spoon feeding. And this kind of system probably will teach students how to become self-reliant, because they have to study on their own now. So students have to be responsible for their own focus and make sure that they are engaged in study material getting online. So sitting in a class It was very easy for teachers to monitor whether students are paying attention or not. Now it is not going to be there. And therefore, students will have to be self-reliant, particularly students in higher education. They are supposed to be self-reliant, and this is really forcing them to take that role, and they are going to be the self-reliant. So they will have to apply their knowledge, and learning from parents also provide learning support. Probably parents will also try to find out that what our child is doing, whether he is learning in a proper manner or not, and parents will also try to monitor. They should monitor, and then only our online education system would be more effective. And therefore, I feel that parents' role is equally important. Attendance of students would improve probably if parents can see what the students are doing. And therefore, attendance, the kind of responsibility which teachers were taking, it would be shared by the parents also. Are students attending classes, and what they are doing after attending the classes, whether they are completing their homework or not, and that task also will have to be fulfilled by the parents. So there is different kind of education. So we are in a situation when fundamentally in education, everything is changing, and there is new ways for us to collaborate and communicate. Institutes, if they don't have sufficient infrastructure, they may think about collaborating with other institutes, or there is a possibility of clustering also. Like we are facing the problem of evaluation of project report of students, and we are thinking that how to accommodate our external examiners. Probably that concept will go away, and those who are the guides for those projects, probably those project reports will have to be evaluated by some other faculty members of the same institute. But there is a possibility that some institutes may have faculty crunch, and therefore they have to have some kind of collaboration with other institutes for the evaluation of the project reports also. And therefore that kind of collaboration, that kind of clustering will take place due to this kind of education system. So there could be a natural disaster which we experienced earlier. There could be a strike, but it has never happened in this magnitude globally. And therefore you have different kind of education. So fraction of students who will have a device and will have bandwidth and connectivity that is needed is relatively small. And that is, as I already said, I won't elaborate that part, but that is going to be the big problem. Another important last part which I would like to point out, that there is emotional contagion. So phenomena when we are catching emotions from one another, it is almost like a virus. And you find that in many instances, some kind of news unnecessarily, students, they spread. Other kinds of individuals, those who are involved in the system, they try to spread that kind of rumors. And that create fear, that create panicky. And therefore it could be even more dangerous than virus itself. So through this system, we have to create confidence. We are not creating fear amongst the students. But of course, along with that, social distancing will be important. So we need for connections when things are going badly, and we feel like meeting people, and we feel like having some kind of interaction, physical interaction, which may not be possible in the changing situation. And therefore instinctively want to come together, but we are all having this kind of problem of isolation. And when you have the problem, isolation, we have to remember it should not get translated into loneliness. And that is also in the society, the job of the teachers. So how one should not feel isolated, and psychologically, the kind of problems which our students are facing, I think that also is our responsibility. In the whole process, what I feel the most important thing is how to have the decentralization of the whole process. And therefore, when we talk about that, whether rural areas will be benefited or not, we have to see how opportunities can be distributed. It's not just the distribution of output. What is important to distribute is opportunities and not output. And if we distribute opportunities, probably those who are not in a position to derive the benefit, they would be able to derive. And therefore, social harmony, how to maintain it, is going to be the challenge. And social harmony is a public good that needs to be understood. And therefore, we have to create capabilities amongst all. There should not be any kind of social divide. That also we have to see. So we are facing at the moment double shock. One is how to create supply, how to have the teaching facilities, and demand whether students would come forward to accept this or not. So we are facing double shock in our education system, and that may create further problems like increasing crime, stress, domestic violence. Health of the economy is equally important as health of people, and therefore just stressing the health system and the medical area will not be adequate enough. We have to see how education system also can become strong in this pandemic, and therefore both are equally important. So killing economy is like killing people, and education system is one of the important aspects of the economy, and therefore health and economy both will be important along with the education system, and that is how we can develop this system. The last point, that is emotions and economy, both are relevant and both are equally important. So we have to create positive mood, and positive mood leads to better decision making. And how to create positive mood, that itself is again the challenge. That positive mood is to be created among students. We have to create hope, compassion, affection, caring, tenderness. These are all very, very powerful instruments in this particular situation. And you need to make sure that students and every individual should not fall in loneliness. And for that, this online mechanism, I feel, is going to be very, very powerful instrument. Policymakers, you can't expect everything from policymakers. So they are supposed to find solutions to some other problems. They are not supposed to give the solace. And solace is what we do in mind. And that solace we can provide very well through our communication system, through this kind of online education system. And that is what is required apart from other kinds of teaching. And therefore, for social element, for society to flourish, we need how we can communicate in the best possible manner to our students. So there is a hope, and I am sure that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I am sure with the cooperation of all the teachers and students, parents, we would be able to face these difficulties in the best possible manner. And we are quite capable to face the challenges which our higher education system is facing. And I'm sure that our students, our teachers will be confident to provide the education in the best possible manner. Probably the things which we never did earlier, we would be able to do it in the most effective manner if we accept and if we adopt this kind of technology. But we have to remember one thing, that technology cannot solve all the problems. Ultimately, there are teachers who teach. Technology is not teaching to our students. So thank you so much. I'm thankful to Julilal Institute of Technology for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts, very stray thoughts, but I'm really thankful for patient listening. I would be happy if there is any question, and I would be happy to react to those questions. Thank you so much.
Jichkar ma'am, if there are questions from participant side.
Actually, right now I cannot see any question, ma'am.
Yes. Mahesh sir. Mahesh sir, you have some questions from participant side?
Ma'am, one question is there. Sir, one question is there for you. That, sir, in our college, most of the students are from the rural and hilly areas with little or no access to internet. In such a situation, what could be the most effective medium to get an access to them in the midst of pandemic lockdown?
Right. As I earlier said, that these are the typical problems which we are going to face. And therefore, online education cannot be the only media with the help of which we would be able to communicate with students. There are other media also which needs to be seen. Radio, I still feel, is the most powerful media, and radio stations are developed by many individual institutes. And there are institutes radio network like Jnana Ganga and other kinds of things, with the help of which you can communicate to those students who are not having internet access. And therefore, lot of efforts will be required in order to find out how to make this delivery stronger, not only with the online education system, but other kinds of medias. There could be collaboration with the existing radio stations. There can be collaborations with your TV channels, and through that, we would be able to reach to our students, to our masses. Online is one of the important aspects, but as we have seen that there are problems where each and every student may not be able to have access to this online education system. Therefore, that needs to be devised. And as I said, that printing material is equally important. So whatever the kind of material we are preparing and trying to deliver through the online education system, that needs to be passed it on, given in the form of print to the individual students, those who do not have access to this kind of system. This is the transitionary phase where it would take time to reach those students. But as I said, that technology alone like this won't solve all the problems of online education system.
So,
Hello. Sir, next
what
question.
parents need to take care of on the
Yeah.
education?
Can you
So,
please repeat?
yeah, what kind of care parents need to take care means?
See, the problem basically is that if students are sitting at home, parents, they become uncomfortable, because throughout the period they never experience such kind of situation where their children are sitting at home. But at the same time, parents will have to find out that how they can get involved apart from routine education system, how they can be involved in some other skill development courses. And lot of online courses are made available through different kinds of education institutes, and some of them of course require some amount of expenses, but there are some courses which are available online. There are some courses like Swayam. That Swayam platform needs to be used along with this kind of technology. Therefore, I said that Swayam, MOOC, these are very powerful platforms available now, and probably we have to exploit these platforms now compared to the earlier one, and the kind of credits which we are giving to the students, we may increase number of credits if students undertake some kind of online courses through Swayam or through MOOC, because these are the courses which are very powerful, and students can take the benefit of those courses also along with our online education system. So parents also need to be made aware that what students can do apart from our routine online lectures, because online lectures will have some specific time, but rest of the time they have to get involved themselves in other kinds of learning, and for that, that platform will be very useful, and that needs to be connected with our education system by granting some kind of Swayam credit, as we did it in MBA recently. And if they do
there
it,
is one, yeah, sorry to disturb. So there is one more question
yeah.
from some Paranvita Valuveli. She
Hmm.
has asked that will emotional intelligence sessions help our students and faculty members to cope with this new normal quotient?
See, that could be one of the ways with the help of which you can create some kind of confidence and you can control fear. But that may not be the only solution to the problem. See, this is the problem which is common now, particularly among youngsters. So teachers' role is important, parents' role is important, and at the same time, the confidence need to be given to the student that this is the period of time which you can easily face, and your job, your employment, your teaching learning process, it will not be affected for a longer period of time. And that kind of confidence, I feel, needs to be generated amongst the students, among the society also, because this is the time where emotionally everybody is disturbed. It looks very attractive for certain period of time that you are getting holidays and you are sitting at home. But how long you can continue with this? And therefore, that is going to be the biggest issue. And that can be handled, of course, with this kind of training programs, emotional intelligence classes and all that. But that we should not entirely rely on this mechanism. There would be the combinations of different kinds of things which will be required. And communication, regular communication is one of the best source with the help of which we can control this kind of problem.
Yes, sir. There is one more question from Jay Prakash J. He is asking that it's very difficult to make students interactive in online teaching. So what can be done for that?
See, that is absolutely right, because it becomes difficult just to communicate one way, because we do not know, and many times it becomes difficult to get the reaction from the students. I think along with lecturing, some kind of exercises, some kind of test needs to be conducted immediately after the lecture to see how far they were attentive. And those marks and those evaluation can be made, and in the overall marking system, that can also be considered as the part of their evaluation process. And unless students get involved in this process of online education system, there is no guarantee that this system would be effective. Because you are delivering lecture, in order to see to it, you can arrange some kind of presentations from students also for certain topics. As I did it recently for MBA students, I have taken all the lectures, 20-30 lectures I have taken so far for MBA students. And then I have arranged some presentations from the student side also. Of course, as I said, that this cannot be the substitute for our traditional teaching learning process. But we have to think and we have to evolve that mechanism where we can see to it that students are taking interest, we are evaluating them, and their marks, once they come to know that it would be counted in the whole process of their evaluation finally, then probably they will get that kind of confidence and they would be taking interest in the process of learning and teaching. That is what is expected in the process.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir, just a small announcement.
Okay.
Madam, this feedback link is posted in question and answer section. Dear participants, I repeat, feedback link is posted in question and answer section. Madam, please continue.
Yes, sir. Swati madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Questions are over.
Mostly, yes, mostly. I mean, whatever I can see on the screen. If
There
somebody
are
wants
two.
to ask a question,
There
yes,
are
they can shoot.
there are two more questions.
Okay.
Okay.
How to overcome limitations of assessment practices, especially the practical components through online system of education?
Right. What I feel that we are now in stage one, and stage one means where we are teaching, students are learning. The second stage would be how to assess and how to have the assessment online. Probably there would be the situation where it would be difficult to conduct the examinations as we were conducting earlier, and therefore how to have the online examination pattern, or if we go for traditional examination, how to have the social distancing and then create that kind of environment and to select the examination centers. That is also the another important challenge. But assessment and evaluation, which some of the universities are already doing online, that can be extended, and that will be the second stage of our online process of education. Third online process of education would be awarding degrees. Convocation, we will not be able to conduct the way we were conducting earlier, and therefore degrees also now would be online. And that is the third stage, which I would say. So first stage is for teaching and learning. Second stage would be evaluation process, assessment, converting those marks into the final mark sheets, and then finally awarding degrees. These are the different stages. We are just in stage one at the moment, and therefore all the stakeholders, particularly in the higher education system, they have to evolve the mechanism with the help of which we can even take the help of those who are developing softwares, and that is what we are doing in our universities, and we are trying to contact those people that how to have the assessment, online assessment. Partly we have already started, but now in the coming days, whole process will be based on the online, and that is what we are now supposed to go in the next stage. After this online teaching learning, assessment will be the another important aspect. So there could be home assignments, there could be internal marks component, which probably weightage would be more than your theoretical kind of examination. So every individual teacher's responsibility will probably go up compared to the earlier one, because he is going to be the evaluator and assessor. External examiners would be difficult to come, and therefore we have to probably have some kind of faith on our own education system, our own teachers, that they would perform the task in the best possible manner. Why we rely on external examiners? Because we feel there would be some kind of bias in the process, and therefore we are involving external examiners. But time has come where we have to probably show faith on our own teachers, and our own teachers, they would perform their task in the best possible manner, with the help of which you can have that kind of assessment. Even that university is thinking.
With your time constraint, can you take one more question, sir? Or should we stop here?
Yeah, no, it's okay. Whatever
Yes,
you
sir.
feel, all right.
Yes,
I don't
so
have
there
any
is there is an interesting question from some anonymous attender. He's
Okay.
asked that can we expect that drawbacks of the traditional teaching learning process can be identified and may be diagnosed, and those can be solved, and can we see the desired changes what we have already discussed?
Absolutely right. But uh, we have to identify first that what were the difficulties and the limitations, and that we all know. And what difficulties we were facing in communicating, what difficulties we were facing in developing teaching skills. They were there in the traditional system also. But you have rightly pointed out that this is the kind of situation which has given us an opportunity to look back to the problems of traditional system, and we can rectify those kinds of limitations and those constraints by going the online mechanism. There were limitations. The main limitations were that many times only individual teacher used to conduct the class. Now this is the kind of system where along with one particular teacher, you can get involved other teachers also for the same subject, and same topic can be communicated, can be discussed, and you can have panel discussion kind of thing on a certain topic. And that I feel is the greatest advantage, which was not there earlier in the traditional system. One teacher used to conduct the class for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. But now you have the facility where you can get involved your colleague, and you can have that kind of relationship, and he can also contribute, and there is a possibility of value addition in the whole process. And that is the biggest advantage. Even guest faculties from outside universities can be involved for dealing with certain topic. So there is a possibility that you can extend this mechanism, and you need not get yourself restricted to one teacher and so many learners. Even you can expand the number of teachers for handling particular area and for particular topic. That is, I think, is going to be the big advantage, and we can remove those limitations which were there in the traditional education system. Okay.
Yes, sir. One more question, or should we end, sir?
Yeah.
I mean,
If it is there.
There's one more question that we've seen a case of suicide of a student from high school standards here in Assam. The participant is from Assam, and because of the lack of money to buy a smartphone, because he could not attain the examination through online, So, sir, there is question in my mind that is the online education only solution in this pandemic situation?
Yeah,
The
you're absolutely
participant is
right.
from
And
Assam, sir.
as I pointed out earlier, I didn't say so directly, but as you have presented that case itself, this is going to be the big challenge. So when we talk about digital divide, I was actually visualizing this problem also, that some students, those who are not having access, they may have some kind of problem relating to this kind of situation. Therefore, I said that one cannot entirely rely and depend on specific online mechanism alone. So you need to develop the package. So we have to identify the students, those who are not having access to this kind of instrument, to this kind of mechanism. And therefore, some separate mechanism needs to be evolved for those students. And that's why I pointed out the decentralization process. You cannot have one size doesn't fit all. So you cannot have the policy at the central level or even at the state level. We have to see the situation at that particular local level, and therefore decentralization there plays an important role. So if you operate at the smaller possible geographical area, then you would be able to identify that how many students are really having access to this particular system. If they don't have, then probably we have to evolve some other parallel mechanism, and that parallel mechanism could be one-to-one and face-to-face kind of interaction, by maintaining the social distance and by maintaining all kinds of norms. But this is going to be a very critical problem, as you have pointed out. And therefore, I'm all the time stressing, even in other webinar also, I said, when I conducted a webinar for Chitrakoot University, I said that unless we go for that kind of decentralization, this policy prescription of online, which will not be fitted automatically for all the areas, and unless we know the local problems, probably we may not be able to overcome these kinds of situations. And therefore, those local problems need to be handled at the local level only. And then only we will be able to solve these kinds of issues. Thank you so much for bringing out this particular case.
Sir, one more question is on YouTube. So basically, there are two questions which are relevant to each other. Sir, what do you think is the role need to played by the government to spread online teaching in the country?
See,
And
what I feel that the most
sir,
important
sir, sir,
role,
sir,
and
sir,
another one, okay.
majority of our students are from poor families. Is it possible to provide smartphone to each and every student by the government?
See, as I said, that government is also, frankly speaking, facing some financial crunch. And therefore, if you suggest, for suggestion, it looks quite attractive, but government cannot provide smartphones, the data which I have already given. Considering the accessibility, you cannot expect that each and every student would be getting smartphones from the government. What government can do and what individuals can do. Government can facilitate, like if in certain areas, if there are certain companies, then government can facilitate and can extend corporate social responsibility, and those corporate sector, if they are helping the society by way of providing these kinds of instruments, then they would be exempted from taxation. That role government can play by way of adopting fiscal measures, give some kind of tax concessions for the corporate sectors, those who are helping the education sector. Let it be the part of CSR activity. This is one way of providing the access to the education system. Another way, as I already pointed out, that government has to think separately for this particular issue, that how to avoid the digital divide. And therefore, if there is no possibility of providing online, then your radio centers, they should be very powerful enough, and teachers without visuals, there can be the lectures audios on the radio itself. And therefore that traditional system which was there in the gram panchayatis and other kinds of institutes, that needs to be again developed in this particular situation, and that would help to solve that problem. As far as the poor families and the purchasing power is concerned, of course, nowadays you find that education is the priority for everyone. But at the same time, having these kinds of system and purchasing these kinds of instruments would really be difficult task for them. And therefore, these poor people, they have to rely on the mechanism which I talked about. You cannot have just online, you can have print media, you can have radio centers, you can have TV channels, which will be provided from the government agencies like Gram Panchayats. And that is the powerful mechanism in the decentralization with 73rd and 74th Amendment, where it is realized that poor people may not be able to have this kind of access. And therefore, Abdul Kalamji's idea of Pura, that is providing urban amenities to rural areas, that I think is essential in the changing circumstances and in the changing situation. This is two-track approach. One approach is students from rural areas, they need not migrate to urban areas, and then there would be problem at the urban centers as we experience the migration problem. And therefore, unless these facilities are provided at the local level, you would be able to derive the kinds of benefits which we talked about. And I think this is the most pressing and important issue that needs to be considered in the process of online education system. But we have to evolve alternatives. And as I said, we have to give opportunities, giving output, providing free kind of grains, food grains and other kinds of things. That is okay for temporary solution. For permanent solution, we have to provide opportunities. And if they get opportunities by having this kind of mechanism, to some extent, we would be able to address that issue of purchasing power and poverty issue. Okay.
Sir, I'd like to add something here.
All right, go ahead.
Sir, IIT Mumbai's alumni, they have initiated a project in the same manner, and they have provided more than 232 laptops to the poor students.
Right.
Alumni fund, and have set an example in which the poorer students can be helped with this, and they can be abridged with the new technology, and they can easily adapt to these technologies.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Even Alumni Association can play a very important role, and we have now registered alumni in many of the institutes, and they really can provide this kind of facility. And as you rightly said, thank you for actually giving this kind of suggestion, and we can pursue our alumni members to help our poor students in that particular manner. And this has already been done, as you have rightly said. So this is another way with the help of which these facilities can be provided to those students. Okay.
Jichkar ma'am, any questions are there?
No, as of now, I think most of the, I mean, there are many repetitive questions and similarities, but there's a very good feedback, sir, and all of the participants who are there, they have found the session very, very informative, and they all want to thank you, and they all have requested to provide them the recordings of your session.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great session, sir, and it was a very exhaustive information which you have provided. I think
Thank you, sir.
we should work on it and continue the work you are doing. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
This was Suresh Chandra. Yes.
Okay.
So I am so sure that all, I mean, this is a formal vote of thanks, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we always know that it is first the intellect which leads to knowledge, and knowledge leads to experience. And what sir has presented today is the showcase of the third and the fourth stage, that is the wisdom. Sir, we are so grateful to you with your wide experience at the higher education and your thoughtful leadership. We have actually received the whole panoramic view of the assets, liabilities, the payoffs, and the challenges. Those are coming to showcase, or those are coming our way through the new online education system. A very important observation which you have put forth is the democratization of the education system, a real panoramic view, the shrinking of the socio-economic divide, which is again a very democratic thought, which I really wonder if anybody would have reached to the level which you have reached. You have not only given us the challenges those we are going to face, but also you are ready with all the solutions those were expected. And we are observing social distancing, the great observation by you, but mentally, emotionally, and now henceforward, intellectually, we are going to come closer. So, sir, no words to explain, the kind of input that we have got and the challenges we are going to face. It was very, very informative and very, very enticing, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much on behalf of Julelal Institute of Technology, MBA department, sir.
Thank you so much. Julelal Institute is very close to me. It is like homecoming
Thank you,
always for me. Right
Thank
from the
you so
beginning,
much.
I'm associated with this institute, and I have seen the way institute has made progress. And I always feel happy and proud to see the progress of the institute. Thank you so much. Thank you, Papat
Thank
Vasar.
you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.